is Business 360, and my name is Blyden Okem. In Business 360 today, we look at the key features in the world of as depreciation reduces Dangote Abdul Samad's wealth by $5.85 billion of Nigeria. An iPhone maker, Foxconn, is to switch to cars as US-China ties soar, and we begin from there. Of difficult Washington-Beijing relationships. In an interview with BBC, Chairman and boss Yang Liu supply chains away from China. Electric vehicles are what will drive its growth in the coming decades. As US-China tensions, let's talk about the space tourism. Sir Richard Branson's space tourism company, Virgin, and its window for the flights, which is called Galactic 01, from 27th June to 30th June. After the announcement to investors, Virgin space firm owned by the UK billionaire shut down months after the mission failed. Virgin Galactic said the first flight will be a scientific research to conduct microgravity research. It would be time for African businesses, technology and agricultural sectors. Prior to this, the majority of India's investments in the East African market have gone into manufacturing. 12 million people becomes a prime target for India's growing investments. In Zambia, Zambia has disclosed that it will cancel a building contract given to power station on the Zambezi River is too expensive. Also, the failure to follow proper procurement procedures were concerns. Zambia's reduction in capacity to around 1,000 megawatts. However, General Electric and Power China remain silent on pandemic and financing challenges. That's a state of things in Zambia and the Chinese company has reduced the wealth of Africa's richest man, Aliko Dangote, and his countryman, Abdul Samad Rabiu of Dangote, the founder of Dangote Group and majority shareholder of Dangote Cement and Dangote Sugar, lost $3.8 billion as the value of his cement and food businesses was affected by the unification of the multiple exchange rates. Similarly, Rabiu $4 billion from $8.27 billion after losing $2.0 market, where the companies predominantly operate, as their revenue is mainly in Naira denominations. The electricity supply has been identified as a hindrance to the profitability of manufacturers with domestic products. Mann noted that the unfavorable situation has positioned the country among the worst economies and in a statement which it reacted to the assenting of the electricity bill by President Bola Tinubu. According to Mann, the country now to the NBS report. The company income tax that manufacturers paid rose by 29% to reports published by the National Bureau of Statistics. The report showed that from all sectoral contributions, manufacturers paid the highest, and increase was also recorded in value-added tax reckoning from manufacturers, as VAT from the sector was up from 112 billion. The increase comes as taxes paid by manufacturers to the federal government rose by 60% to $800 a year. We'll go on a short break. When we return, we'll be looking at global economy and we'll get to x-ray what the indices are in. Welcome back. It's Business 360 and my name is Blyden Okem. We'll move to the economic calendar and see the standings in the world's data. According to economic calendar, the standings indicates that as at 1:30 a.m., non-oil exports month-on-month for May came out at a negative 14.6. Bank of Japan interest rates came out at a negative 0.1%. A negative 0.1% was the previous standing. The standings in the afternoon period would be indications for 3 p.m. the Michigan Consumer Sentiment Preliminary Update, what it should be. So I'm looking forward to it. Let's get to further activities from the calendar and what the details would be coming forward. In the evening planning was 556 index points. Now, during its June meeting, bringing the rates on main refinancing operations to 4%, 5%. This marked the 8th consecutive rate hike Crown to cover and would likely continue raising interest rates in July. ECB officials tightening pace in the history of the bank. Let's look at the standings in Asia. Sri Lanka's GDP sank in the first quarter of 2023, marking a fifth consecutive quarter of contraction, as the country is experiencing its worst financial crisis in decades. The industrial sector sank 20%, and machineries and equipment construction went down 38.3%, and mining and quarrying plunged 45.7%. Also, the services sector went down 5%, mainly dragged down by insurance and financials. The central bank sees the economy contracting by 2% this year, while the IMF sees it shrinking 3%, before registering a modest growth of 1.5% in 2020, the exchange rate stabilizing and the central bank rebuilding reserves buffers. The annual inflation rate in Nigeria rose for the fourth month to a near 18-year high of 22.41% in May 2023, up from 22. Consumer price index baskets continued to accelerate to 24.82% in May after jumps and tubers. The annual core inflation rate, which excludes farm produce, was 20.06% in May, 0.94% in May, the most in 7 years, up from a 1.91% rise in April. It would be a good time to a steady rise since last year, as at July 2022, inflation rate was 19.64%. It went even higher to 21.09% in October 2022 and further higher to 21.82% this year in January, in May, indicating the struggles in the country and the difficulties in the country. The statistical perspective was the highest in Ondo State at 25.84%, Kogi State had 25%, Sokoto 19.56%, and Plateau 19.89%, recorded the slowest rise. In Headland had an inflation rate of 24.33% in May. As an outlook from that angle, let's talk about the commodity. The global push for net zero carbon emissions is one of humanity's greatest challenges. This abundant element in the universe could play a crucial role. Let's find out more from him, Simon.
And the most abundant in the universe. When you master hydrogen in its pure component, you're basically having the best
forms of energy. Ever more attention is being drawn to the awesome potential of the smallest, simplest element there is, hydrogen. In this film, we'll look at the gathering rate in the southern Spanish province of Ciudad Real.
By Iberdrola, the continent's biggest utility company. The solar electricity powers a process called electrolysis. This uses electricity to split water into hydrogen and oxygen. The hydrogen goes directly to an adjacent factory to make ammonia.
A molecule of water is hydrogen and oxygen. With the energy, the green energy, we bring it to this building where we have the electrolyzers. We have 16 cells of electrolyzers. There we break the water molecules. We get this hydrogen and this oxygen. And well, this way we have the tanks. We store a part of the production. So during the night, we can use that hydrogen that we have stored and deliver it.
Which plans to invest €3 billion in this space by 2030.
Before 2030, we have different, and we will see how these projects are progressing. And it's not only about the generate from renewables to fuel all these factories. And this is also an interesting investment from our side.
Nearly all of it is made by breaking apart hydrocarbon fossil fuels, giving hydrogen and carbon dioxide. That gives off.
Only time will tell. Let's get to the energy market and talk about what the standings are in the market, dropping this morning slightly, 0.75 points, a negative 1.08% decline for Brent crude, which is Nigeria's price benchmark market. what these markets are saying this morning. Gold price has gained 6.1 and 6.2,963 US dollars per ounce. For silver, it's remains at 1,439 US dollars per bushel, gaining 11.25 points, while wheat 233 points, the 6.56% appreciation at current price for palm oil by the foreign exchange market. Bitcoin has gone up from 38% in over 2 years. Let's have insights from Jim Laurier. Jim Laurier.
Massive. Much of this decline seems to be related to a huge regulatory push that's resulted in allegations and developments are laying the groundwork for a future tailwind for Bitcoin. Michael Saylor, the executive chairman and president of MicroStrategies and a large Bitcoin holder, said in an interview on June 6 that much of that confusion stems from other crypto securities for which regulators don't see a legitimate path forward. Now, another interesting development is
Bitcoin price. Crypto market this morning have shown some positivity for Bitcoin, but a slight decline for Ether. Bitcoin price this morning is 25,567 US dollar for 1 BTC, gaining 29 points for little here, little here. Let's look at the euro against the US dollar. What the standings are this morning. It's gone up. Aussie against the US dollar, slight decline this morning. But let's look at the. It's been a 10-point decline for the US dollar against the Naira, meaning Naira is doing quite fine, equaling 1 US dollar. For the euro, it's the same story, a slight decline for the euro this morning. For the pound against the Naira market. The price at the black market has shown that dollar to Naira, 4 Naira to $1. For pounds to Naira, the current price is 952 Naira to 15 Naira to 1 euro, and selling rate 797 Naira to 1 euro.